Good evening, my feral friends. Happy Thursday. It is the 19th of February, 2026, and it was another beautiful day. Absolutely gorgeous. I had an appointment, so I was out and about and spent the majority of the afternoon, well, peacocks. The latter part of the afternoon at the park in town. Um, but I ran into some interesting people because it's a park and I'm me. And it once again kind of made me stop and think and just connect with people. And it's amazing to me how many people I talk to that convey the lack of friendships, the lack of connection, just having a conversation with a stranger. And I'm not sure that there's anybody stranger than me at times. But there was a young man, and I was doing some stuff, and he asked me a question, and I didn't understand what he asked me. And he repeated himself, and he asked me if I was a blogger. So clearly I still didn't understand the question. But we got to talking, and he had a little person with him, and the energy of that little person was just infectious. And then a woman and another little person came and joined him, and the energy was very loving and everything. And I made a presumption I should not have made. The good news is they were not siblings, but they were in a co-parenting sort of situation. Now, I will say that co-parenting situation was fabulous and amazing to watch. She actually was deaf, and she had just such beautiful energy, and he made some comments that led to a whole conversation. And next thing I know, we're involved in this conversation, and it was just very interesting. And when I asked, I said, well, I said something about, well, is this your wife or is this your husband? And he said one thing, she said something else, and it was like, oh dear. And I think she said it's complicated. And I kind of smiled and looked at her, and I said, and I like looked at him, and I said, well, does it have to be? And they looked at each other, and they kind of had this moment, if you will. And that's the question du jour. Life is busy. Life is all the things that life is. And things do get complicated, but do we tend to complicate them to simplify them? Are we looking for problems so we can solve them, so somehow we feel accomplished in some way? I think I have definitely been that person. And I'm struggling with irony these days. And so I have had 3 very impactful conversations today, and they all ended with love. Love is the answer. It is really that simplistic. I struggle with this because love is like the hardest thing ever, and yet it shouldn't be. It's like the purest thing, and it's oxymoronic in so many ways. And so I'm just like, love. But then it takes me back to my parents, and I saw what unconditional love looked like. And the whole better for worse, sickness and health, rich or poor. I mean, they ran the gamut. And I think that's why it's hard for me to understand when people just aren't willing to fight for love or a relationship or a marriage. I mean, don't get me wrong, all relationships should not be fought for. And that's the thing. It's hard to compromise, to put someone's needs and wants before your own, especially women. Like, it's easy for us because we're mothers, but it's not easy for us because at some point we feel, what about us? Like, the kids are grown, or, any number of scenarios. We need to take more time, especially younger moms. You need to take more time for yourself. Don't feel guilty about it. Understand that if you put your husband or your partner, your significant other, if you put their needs before your own, feed into that relationship, he is the head of the household. He is the leader. And if you feed into him, into his energy, if you encourage him, if you support him, if you love him, and that's the trick right there. Once again, we come back to love. You have to know how to love someone. Just because you want to be loved in a certain way doesn't mean that he wants to be loved in a certain way, or vice versa. So that comes back to communication. What works for one might not work for another. But going back to the love, the transfer of energy. And that's the thing, if you pour into him first, then he will then pour back into the family. And I think as moms, we tend to put children first. And then he's making a living, supporting the family. He's getting burned out. We're getting burned out. The children are the children. They're wild cards all the way around. So it just comes back to finding that balance. I had to get a new Bible. My old one was a little too sentimental for the moment. I needed larger print, if we're being honest. But it's funny because I find a lot of comfort in reading the Bible these days. But I also read a whole bunch of other stuff. Lots of books on yoga, lots of books on meditation, lots of books on sound healing, lots of manuals right now for learning new things that I find very overwhelming, but I digress on that. So learning new things can be fun and exciting and all of those things. Learning to reprogram my brain and recalibrate my nervous system and pretty much flip everything that I have been. Not because I think there's anything that was wrong with me. I think for the time it was fine. It just carried over a little too long. What used to keep me safe hasn't kept me safe in a very long time. In fact, it's become a hindrance. So the self-care starts with regulating our nervous system. We have to be able to slow down, to be calm, to be able to breathe, to be able to relax. The world is chaotic. Homes are chaotic. Work, school, all of the things. But if we slow down, we find that not everything has to be so hurried. It's okay to meander and piddle, dawdle, stop and smell the flowers. Depending on the flower, maybe pick a few. Never bluebonnets in Texas. Never. So, I don't know if I have ever told the story about, a couple days after my engagement, we were coming home. I feel like I've told this story where I met the devil, or at least an individual that was very theatrical, and he was the most beautiful human. And that's the thing. Our pastor did a service on Sunday about demons. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Some people agree, a lot of people agree with me. Some people roll their eyes at me, but we are definitely in spiritual warfare. If you do not know Jesus Christ, I suggest that you start seriously looking into getting a relationship with him. It's not warmongering. It's not fear-mongering. It's not, there will be a war. It's not anything like that. It's historical. It's biblical. It's kind of interesting and fascinating. And I'm just saying, Gen X, we are here. Group 7, whatever that means. We are here. We are strong. We will make a way for him. Hallelujah. Amen. But it comes down to love and energy, frequency, vibration. Love is going to be way up here. Fear is going to be way down here. Hate and all of that somewhere in here. And that's where the world is, right here. I haven't watched the news in I don't know how long. I used to always have it on. People would be like, I seriously think I've probably damaged people with keeping them abreast of what's going on in the world. And yet, even if I'm not keeping up with it, like I couldn't tell you really what's going on anywhere, but I can feel that things are off. And I was talking to someone else, and she picks up on a lot of energy. She's a hypnotist, hypnotist. And it's a very interesting time. And we read the Bible, and we read these stories, and it's hard for us to grasp them because, faith and all of these things. But I don't have the problem like I used to when I was younger. And now I'm thinking, why wouldn't we be living in biblical times? I mean, you don't know what history is until it's history. And if we're making history, even if it's 2,000 years from now, it's been 2,000 years since, there's got to be something bigger than everything that's going on here. People feel it, you know it, and I've spent the majority of my life angry, little rage, and I was doing a deep meditation. Again, I told you, I've lost anger, can't find her, she's not coming back, and today, more so than in the past, but specifically today, after a deep meditation this morning, I think that I had to lose anger, because if I had the anger and the rage like I have had until I lost her, I'm not sure that I could take that, because the only person that I would be justifiably angry with at this moment is myself. I play devil's advocate. It's like having an alter ego. It's like having an out-of-body experience. Like I'm looking at myself, but I don't quite look like I look. I look like whatever my alter ego looks like, which I can't really describe. Sounds crazy, I know, but stick with me here. And you're having this conversation back and forth over a situation. And finally, it's like maybe your mother, your father, somebody, a best friend has done this before. It's the same concept. They'll be like, well, whose fault is that? And immediately you want to blame whatever the situation is. Well, it's her fault, or it's his fault, or it's the teacher's fault, or it's the parent's fault, or the whatever. We go to some other place. But ultimately, who made that decision? I did. I made the decision to stay in situations I should maybe not have stayed in. I made decisions to go places maybe I shouldn't have gone. I made decisions to do this, that, or something else. And at the end of the day, we don't like to hold ourselves accountable and responsible. And I've tried to do this through my life because other people have held me responsible and accountable for things. But ultimately, God will protect us. And I came to the conclusion that sometimes we don't leave situations we have overstayed for such a period of time that he's got to be thinking, what is going on with you, my child? Just like a parent, like a good father, he will step in and he will remove the obstacle so you can get on with your path. My path must be love, because the attacks on the world, my world, comes down to love. So, go out, be kind, smile, talk to strangers. Don't accept candy from them, but talk to them. Make friends. He and his lovely family, actually, I, of course, invited them to church, and he said he was looking to get baptized, so that was a nice little caveat. But as they were walking off, they were kind of in the distance because the park's long, I did see her like take his hand, just kind of slide her hand into his hand. And I thought that was really sweet. And it gave me hope. So you know what? You just never know who you're going to run into or why you might run into them. Have a wonderful evening, and God bless.